Yes, yes, yes. How are we doing? Happy Monday. Hope you're really good. So today we're going to get into how to sustain change. So for an awful lot of people, trying to sustain change, a movement, evolution, change of direction, building a vision, whatever, is the hardest part of the process, right? Sometimes often we get too distracted and we end up falling off the bandwagon, the process, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that we can do to help that. I want to look at some of the things that knock us off path and look at the things that we have to establish to put us on path. Okay, make sense? Cool. All right, so let's get on with it. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I am your host, James Boardman, and if you are coming through, please do hit the love heart button, and please do comment to let me know if you sustaining a process of change is something that has been difficult and is something that maybe that you've slipped a few times. Okay, and then share with anyone you think might need this. What a game last night, by the way. Like, I'm a big football fan, and I felt like that was the best match that I have ever kind of watched. It's just unbelievable game of football. Hopefully be England in 4 years. Right, so look, let's get into the thing that we want to look at. So this dude here, this is what we would call in our world, in our coaching world, the elite operator. The elite operator is that alter ego, is that picture, that vision, that template of the individual that we're trying to be through leading ourselves. So when we lead ourselves, we're trying to lead ourselves to be an elite operator so that we are showing up to lead ourselves, to lead our families, to lead our business, to lead our career, to lead our health. Okay, so this is ultimately what we're trying to achieve. So when we think about having a better life, we kind of call it performing like an elite operator. Now, where quite a few people are when they start with us is that average operator. Now, an average operator doesn't sustain routines, doesn't really have plans, really has low self-belief and so low self-esteem, really not performing in their business or their job, really feeling overwhelmed, really just piling the pressure on themselves, burying their head in the sands and not really doing anything about it. And if you show up like an average operator, then you can almost imagine the type of results that you want to get, right? And you're at this point for whatever reason, like whether you've forgotten yourself, whether you've lost your identity, whether you're going for a divorce, whether you have lost somebody recently, excuse me, whether you've lost somebody recently, whether you've lost the thirst for life, whether you've lost direction, whatever it might be. But here right now is pretty much where like a lot of people are right now. And when we try to change, when we try to get up, when we try to implement a fitness regime or a nutrition regime, or we're trying to be a little bit more structured, or we're trying to be drink less, or we're trying to smoke less, usually, that's my light gone. Usually, that is the byproduct. 2 weeks is usually the time where we lose that momentum. So for the first week, it's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I really want to do this. And then we end up hitting some barriers along the way, right? And those barriers end up turning into stoppages, turning into walls. And usually after 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks at push, we just then kind of slip, and all of that motivation, all of that momentum has disappeared. Okay, so if we look at this map here, this is where we are. Over 2 weeks, we're trying to make our way to this dude here, okay, and then we stop. We end up here right away. And these are just 3 examples. There are a multitude of examples here, but these are 3 that we've come across since I've been doing this job and business and working with people. So people become overwhelmed with life. So in that process of 2 weeks where you're trying to improve yourself, work has suddenly got really busier. Suddenly something's happening within a relationship, more pressure. Suddenly you start to doubt yourself. Suddenly the excuses creep in, and suddenly it's like this barrage, it's like this tsunami, and it's coming through, and it knocks you right off. It knocks you right off your path. It distracts you from what you're trying to achieve here, and we end up falling off. okay, and we end up going, and then you'll probably come back to it 3 or 4 months later, right? Putting the wrong priorities in order in place. So those wrong priorities, they're wrong choices, they're wrong decisions, the wrong directions that you're sort of taking your life, okay? And because we put the wrong priorities in front of us, that's the things that make us feel like awful about ourselves. That's the things that make us feel like we're distracting ourselves. They're the things that don't produce the outcomes that you want to produce. And then you end up becoming really, really frustrated. And that's why we end up coming off in 2 weeks, because we're making those wrong decisions and we're taking those wrong turns, right? So it's the wrong priorities that you're putting first. And then not facing realities. So I would call this a lot of burying your head in the sand, just pretending that you're not going through a bad time, just pretending that everything's overwhelming you, pretending that life is okay. And we often mask that with drink, booze, drugs, other habits that we maybe get into. But certainly we just don't become very conscious of everything that's going on, because we're just trying to forget it. We're just trying to numb it, pretend it's not happening, and maybe it'll go away. Okay, classic man mentality. And then there are these 5 things. So the reason that these things overwhelm us and stop us from going any further to achieving this is because there's 5 things that are not in place. Okay, so when these things happen, these 5 things, if we had them in place, I think would make a huge difference. In fact, I know they would. So number 1, no routine. Okay, when we've got no routine, in theory we have no structure and no system. And because we have no non-negotiable routines, no non-negotiable structures or systems in place, when things get hard, like these 3 examples here, we just completely fall by the wayside. Second one, there's no discipline. So if there is no discipline, a discipline is doing the things that you know you must do but don't really want to do. I.e., when it's pouring down with rain, it's like going for that run. I've got to go for this run. Okay, it's part of building that discipline muscle in here. I've got to make sure I'm doing my journal. I've got to make sure I'm doing my accountability. Everything has a purpose, because it's building and doing the reps of that discipline muscle. And when you build that discipline muscle, and when you challenge yourself not to show up, not to work out, not to get up when the alarm goes, because your discipline muscle gets stronger, it always overrides that negative effect that your brain's trying to tell you, don't get up, don't worry about that workout. Whereas the discipline is building up the counter to that, the muscle to that. But because when we have no discipline, when this happens, it's like, I'll have to come back to it in a couple of months, right? No accountability. When you do this journey alone, it is a very lonely journey, because you've got no one to turn to. There is no support, there is no guidance, which is one of the reasons that we started this business in the first place, right? To hold men accountable, to have a platform for men to be accountable. And we often find that when men leave too early and they haven't built up these here to the right level that they need to, they come crashing back and they end up coming back. Which is why we only allow guys into our brotherhood twice. Once you've been in our elite brotherhood twice and you've left twice, you don't get to come back, because it's not that type of place. We want to make sure that we build up guys so that they are ready to fly the nest, so they have all of the skills, had the mindset, discipline, vision, resilience, routines to be able to sustain it and make it without getting stuck at these places here. Okay, no vision. Without vision, there's no identity. Without identity, there is no character, there is no drive, there is no momentum, there is no inner self-motivation or emotional connection to that bigger mission that you're on. Okay, so vision is key. And when we get to here, we don't have a vision to fall back on. Oh my God, that is doing my head in, that light. We have no vision to fall back on. Okay, and that's the key thing to understand. Without vision, we can't possibly drive forwards. Okay, there is no rocket fuel when it gets hard. And then the no resilience kind of comes from just not working on yourself. There is no inner character or strength. It's too much of a snowflake mentality that goes on, because we don't put ourselves under hardship, because we don't make things tough enough for ourselves. Life is hard and it is tough, but we're not tougher enough, we're not harder enough. then life to stay on top of it. So we end up coming around this cycle, and this cycle just happens for men for years. We've had guys who come through and have admitted this happening for the last 10 years. Okay, we're never breaking through to this side. So we obviously need things in place. So we need structures, routines and systems to get past this place. Here we need systems, structures, routines and systems. So we need like the morning routines, we need the evening routines, we need a phone routine, we need work-life balance, we need when I'm going to start work, when I'm going to finish work. All these micro elements that create a much stronger version of you that gets you to the place that you want to be. Showing up, building emotional connection, okay? You've got to be able to show up to improve your discipline. You've got to learn to do the things that you don't want to do, but need to do to get to that place you want to be, okay? So if you're going to lead yourself, you've got to lead yourself. You can't be pressing snooze 3 or 4 times and then waking up. You can't be making excuses not to go to the gym or not to go running. You've got to be able to show up. There's got to be that emotional connection to the process, and if there isn't, if you don't put that in there, you're going to find yourself detouring back down here. You've got to find accountability. You know, we do so much free stuff. We've got the Elite, we've got a free 7-day course coming up on Boxing Day, which opens up on Boxing Day. We've got 5-day challenges. You can go into Facebook groups. You can find a buddy. There's accountability around you, but if you try to do it by yourself, you will always take the easy option, always. Vision, a minimum of 28-day vision. If you can create a 28-day vision, this is where I want to be in 28 days, you're on the right process. Okay, at the start, it doesn't have to be where I'm going to be by the end of the year. It doesn't have to be where I'm going to be in 5 or 10 years. You build yourself up to that. But to start with, it's kind of like just having, this is where I want to be at the end of January, and then getting to the end of January and saying, right, I've achieved that, man, let's move on to the next stage, okay? And show character, like literally show some character, show some depth of character, show some leadership, show that you want it. You know, there's kids watching you, your kids are watching you, they're learning from you. Remember that. You want to be the leader to them, you want to be the leader to your wife, you want to be a leader to yourself. You against you, always. So show some internal character and build. That is how we break through from this cycle to get to this dude here. All right, guys. Hope you have a great day. Wednesday is the last Rise to Thrive. It's going to be for about a week or so. I haven't decided when I'm going to restart them again. All right, so Wednesday, I'll be doing the last one of before Christmas, certainly. And then I'll confirm the date when I'm going to come back with you on Wednesday.